It's the thriller minute Argentine again.
Welcome to the Cover Story Podcast. I'm Jack and he's Mac, and we're on a never-ending mission to earn you some racks. This is episode 5, and mama, there goes that man again. Mac, another massive W this past weekend. $250 into 52,000. Obviously, we have to start there. Mac, how are we feeling after another absolute home run?
Yeah, feeling incredible. I mean, my God, didn't think I'd ever hit anything remotely close to that 27K again, and then essentially doubled it with a 250 into 52. It was absolutely nuts. There was no rhyme, reason, logic, or lab work to create this kind of prop in itself. Basically, just high level. Rams just kicked off. They didn't receive the ball, right? I, for whatever reason, just had this gut feeling that Higbee was going to find the end zone. Like, there really wasn't any logic at all. It was just kind of a gut. Yeah, sure. That seems nice.
Saints are pretty terrible on defense, so
yeah, and
find a go-to guy there. Yeah,
and I mean they got like 3 tight ends that Stafford throws to, but I just felt like Higbee was due. I don't even know if he hadn't scored it all recently, but so I just threw that, and that in itself was plus 390. So then, of course, we're looking at the Chiefs Bills game, which hadn't kicked off yet. And for the last 2, maybe 3 years, I've been so high on Dalton, and he just stat-wise and fantasy-wise and touchdown-wise, he's just not that consistent. But, well, again, one of those things I think the guys do. And so I was immediately just going to do anytime touchdown. But, I was like, you know what? I don't know. I just think he's going to be the first one to find the end zone. And so that in itself was a nice little juice. It was 2 at the option. I believe there was even a potential boost on the line for same game. And I always figured, who's most likely to score in this game? Josh Allen. He's going to throw a dart. He's going to run a dart. Might as well happen. Higbee, first one to score right off the bat. They got the ball immediately after a 3-and-out, I think, from the Saints. And when I saw them on the goal line and see him run a route and he's wide and Stafford just toss it up, it was one of those feelings like, oh, wow, could you imagine if this actually started pacing? Fast forward to the Bills game opening drive. It was one of those things where it just felt like everything started clicking because I'm watching this play. I think they're 20 yards plus out. I see their free safety, or maybe their safety on the left side, starts to push in as if he's about to rush. And then the moment Bills hike the ball and Josh Allen gets the ball in his hands, I see Dalton already running to the corner. And I believe at the time I'm thinking there's no one there, just throw it up.
Well, he fell down. That's why the defender tried to change direction and just see you later.
Turns out the guy falls down and Dalton just waltzes in the end zone. And that was obviously the most unlikely hit. So I'm freaking out because all we have left is Josh Allen. And so
and you're 7 minutes into the game at this point.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much time left. So I'm talking to, I've reached out to my parents. I'm hitting up you, of course. First person I call is you, obviously. And I'm starting to ask other people, like, do I cash out? I think it was at 15K at that point to cash out. And it's just one of those things where, all right, you know what? We're riding it out for the first half. If there's no Josh Allen touchdown in the first half, I'm just going to take the cash, walk away, and be done with it. And lucky enough, on their 3rd or 4th drive, they already had a goal line opportunity initially before then. It didn't happen. But I was convinced that Cooks got in on that first run. Thank God he didn't, because they were on the 1 and the tush push went in, even though it didn't look like it went in initially. If everyone's seen the reel, I was freaking out. Also, just want to confirm, I didn't have the game on mute. You just couldn't pick up the audio from the recording. That was a bunch of those comments in that one. But yeah, it's the first time experiencing internet trolls. This is a new thing for me. I want to respond to all of them.
Yeah, there are many.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, some guy even said to
we love the engagement, so please continue to comment.
Yeah, hate, love, please, yeah, absolutely keep it going. We do love that. But once he went in, it was just, yeah, it was pure endorphins. Rooney got in the celebration too. I'm glad we captured that moment. But yeah, beyond stokes, man. Feeling very lucky.
Yeah, well, glad you had a positive there because it was not exactly a fantastic weekend for the boys over at the Cover
Yeah.
Story.
Yeah.
Did go 4-2 on the college football slate. We'll run you through that real quick. We nailed the Texas pick. Vanderbilt sucks. I told you it was going to happen. That game actually got kind of close towards the end. I was getting real nervous that they were going to come back and win that because Texas was blowing them out the entire game. The Jekyll and Hyde OU strikes again. They come away with another win. That was a loss for us as we were back in the old Volunteers, but looks like John Mateer and the boys at Oklahoma might have figured something out, but who knows? That's about as roller coaster of a team as I've ever seen. Told you to take Texas Tech in the over in that Kansas State Texas Tech matchup. Both of those hit very easily, if I do might add. So that was a nice little double win there. And then Utah stomped Cincinnati. We told you to have the over in that game. Thought Cincinnati might be able to keep it close, but boy, were we wrong on that. But hey, our pick was the over, so that was a nice one. And then Georgia Tech lost outright, so not ideal there. Maybe they aren't that good. Who knows? But 4-2 on the college football slate, so not too bad. Not too bad there. Then we'll head over to the NFL. You know we love to start with our prime time games. Number one on the Ravens rollover, cashed out very well. So we're alive and well. We'll get to that later on in the show. We had the Seahawks taking down the Commanders. That one was over early, and Jaden Daniels. That was gross. I feel very bad for him.
Yeah.
I know people want to comment about him playing in a 30-point loss, or losing at 30 points at the time. But I mean, just shit like that is so brutal. That sucks.
No, you hate to see it, no matter who your team is, and it's heartbreaking because it feels like the guy just cannot catch a break now. What's looking like a very, very promising career, he's starting to get a lot more injuries than he should be getting at that age and that early on in his career. So we hope it's quick and good, strong recovery. Wanted to see him back, but that was tough to watch.
Yeah, not ideal. Arms do not go that way. So apparently, and I'm no doctor, but according to the doctors that I do follow on Twitter or X, the everything app, they said it was like a clean break. So ideally, that's the best way possible. And again, it's his non-throwing arm, so I guess that's good. But yeah, hopefully he's going to have a speedy recovery and gets back on the field. Maybe by the end of the year. I have no idea.
You think so?
I don't know. Split that baby up. But speaking of not great, Monday Night Football, Cowboys, they lose to Jacoby Brissett and the Arizona Cardinals. And boy, that game was gross. I knew it was going to be bad. I said plug your nose and take the over, which that didn't hit. But the Cowboys decided to go out and make a splash and acquire some big defensive weapons. So, wow, Mac, what are your thoughts on the Cowboys trades? Quinn Williams.
At this point, anything that Jerry Jones is touching is cancer. So, look, our first trade was scratching heads all day. I mean, quite frankly, I barely knew who even this guy was. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, the guy was benched by the worst defense in the NFL because he couldn't shed a block, and yet we're trading for him. And then we go and give up some picks for Williams. So from the Jets. I mean, it just all comes down to our initial Parsons trade, right? We get a guy that's a defensive tackle that's supposed to be able to shed blocks from this trade and some picks. He's not doing that. So we then decide, okay, you know what? Maybe we just accept that we took a fat L on that trade. Let's go trade for another defensive tackle that's supposed to be shedding blocks, who, if you look at him with the Jets this year, is not. So
he has 1 sack on the season.
Yeah,
3 quarterback pressures.
Yeah, so it's basically the Cowboys saying, okay, we fucked up on our trade, shocker. So let's try to see if we can recover here. I mean, Troy Aikman live in the game even said, like, going after someone at this point is a waste of time. You're going to give up capital. It's not going to make a difference. This defense is atrocious. And he's right. We're not going to see any difference from this. If anything, we're just losing equity and losing capital for what we are going to tell the public that this is a quick fix. I mean, it's just Jerry. It needs to be in a retirement home, and he needs to stop running this organization. I've said it for decades now, we will never win a Super Bowl if the Jones family is running the show. And his son's about to take over, hopefully sooner than later, but that's not even that much of an upgrade, if any at all. So I'm not a fan of that family. I mean, I shouldn't say that. The family is a great family for the city of Dallas. I'm pretty sure I went to school with some of the grandkids. They're very nice people, but I'm sorry. Jerry Jones is an absolute clown. So I can go on a tangent about that, which I just did, but I won't continue.
And that was our Cowboys Minute with Mac. Okay, yeah, not great in Arlington, Texas or Dallas, but I'll actually be in Fort Worth this weekend, so who knows? Maybe you can have a good time down there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bills, Chiefs, talked about it. I mean, that game always rocks. Like, I wish we could watch that game every single weekend. It's always a one-score game. It's always back and forth. A phenomenal, phenomenal game. I hope you saw through my bullshit and took the Bills to win at home. But, yeah, Bills take down the Chiefs. And the specialty parlay that we gave out, it was all on the Colts. And, boy, they screwed that one up big time. Fun fact, the Colts had 4 turnovers on the season going into Sunday's game against the Steelers, and they had 6 turnovers in that one. So that one, unfortunately, did not hit, but we also had the Jaguars, which that game ended up being crazy in overtime. And we had the Broncos, and they came through on a last-second field goal as well. So a bunch of tight ones. Tried to go a little bit more tight for you versus the favorite play that we like to do, but unfortunately, any dimes turned back into a pumpkin for one Sunday. But World Series, neither of us were right. We thought it would end in 6, but it ended in 7, and what a game that was. Dodgers winning in 7. I mean, they're just so freaking good. Yamamoto was unbelievable. Yeah, I don't know what to do to beat the Dodgers. I have no answer for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what an electric, I would say arguably, if not easy pick of saying most exciting World Series we've ever seen, right? I think that was just top to bottom, such a fun series to watch. I also actually ended up live betting the Dodgers when they were down by 2 and got a nice little return on that. Although that's what we call a nice emotional hedge. I wanted the Blue Jays to win it all, of course. But it was nice to make some cash off it.
Yeah. It was fun. But baseball, goodbye. We will see you again in February, pitchers and catchers.
Or a year, because let's be honest, October is the only time baseball matters.
Yeah, well, for you, what are you, Rangers fan? I don't even know how that works.
Yeah. You know,
okay. Hey,
we had our time a couple years ago. That's all we needed.
Yeah, nice. All right, well, back to the here and now and the things that we actually care about, and that is European football. Oh, Mac, did we learn our lesson? Did we stop taking French teams? Or where are we going this weekend?
We have officially learned our lesson. French teams are frauds. That is the name of the game. We are going to stick by that logic indefinitely moving forward. There's a glimpse hope. We talked about this previously in the pod. French teams have always fucked us, okay? Always. Start of the season, we started to see a nice little turnaround, right? Strasbourg was actually hitting some bets. Marseille was looking pretty spicy and hitting some bets. Nope. Back to the norm. We have been net negative aggressively, just specifically on French teams, because they're all frauds. That league is corrupt. Never again. So we are no longer taking French teams moving forward. That's why we bet Bayern Munich in Champions League on Tuesday. That's why Marseille lost to Atalanta the next day for Champions League on Wednesday. They're all frauds. We're going to be fading them from here on out. But for this weekend ahead, very exciting lines coming up. Now, I, like per usual, I'm going to have a couple games I'm going to give you some focus on. I do want to say, though, I am cooking up a nasty parlay for Saturday. Ooh. It's either going to be a 4 or 5 team one. The line as of now is plus 408. I couldn't be more confident on this parlay for Saturday. If you want to tail, if you want to ride, follow our socials. I'm going to be posting that Saturday morning for you to lock in and start your weekend off with some nice profit. Now, what I'd love to be able to discuss is our super Spanish Sunday parlay. Now, we've done a couple of these in the past where we've focused on different countries, different leagues. First time we're going to be heading over to Spain, and I'm very excited about this one on Sunday because there's 3 games that I'm going to be following, entailing, and parlaying all together. First game, of course, are going to be Barcelona at Celta Vigo. That is, I believe, the later game, but we're going to be looking at the 2 powerhouses. So Barcelona at Celta Vigo, that's minus 165. They defensively are horrific, but they're scoring goals. Lamine Yamal's back. Rashford's look pretty decent as well. Fernan himself also, I believe, even on the score sheet for Champions League. Tough draw against Club Brugge, but I'm full blown.
Nervous they let in 3 and almost 4 that we had one taken away there. Are we nervous about that showing Wednesday?
I would say that does lead for some concern. But quite frankly, the one thing that we should be concerned about is not even because of that. It's because they're playing against the giant killers themselves, Celta Vigo, led by the veteran, the legend, Iago Aspas, who single-handedly loves to beat the Giants. But as I said, we're full bull on Barcelona. So we're gonna be going for Barcelona against Celta Vigo. Second, of course, going to be Real Madrid, who will be coming off a loss to Bayern Munich from Champions League. So they're going to be bouncing back against Rayo Vallecano. If I pronounce that correctly, that line is minus 200. But the big thing that makes this juicy, and I've talked about them in the past, I've bet on them in the past, but it's going to be Real Betis at Valencia. Real Betis alone, plus 130. This is a team that has the talent. They're still figuring out their midfield and their defensive sound, I'd say, but they have the talent offensively. I still think Antony is one of their kind of best signings they've had in the last 2 years from Manchester United, who was a complete dud, but he's found his form and his confidence over there. I do think they are going to come correct at Valencia, who is by far one of the worst teams in Spain. So I'm going to be picking them to add to the 3-team parlay, which brings our parlay up to plus 454 as of the recording. So that line
caliente.
Muy caliente. So Super Spanish Sunday. That's going to be my pick of the weekend. Be on the lookout for that. If there's any drastic lineup changes or anything, of course, we will keep you posted. We'll alter it if we need to. But as of now, that's going to be our big pick for the weekend.
Okay, so a 5-leg potential Saturday play. Check out the socials. Could be Icarus. Who knows? We'll see if I can talk back into something there. But very, very confident in that play on Saturday. So be on the lookout for that. And then the Muy Caliente Super Spanish Sunday, taking 3 away sides in España. Okay, love it. Real Betis, Real Madrid, and Barcelona. Wonderful. Okay, now we're heading to the American football, specifically the college side of things, to get going here. And if you paid attention Tuesday night, the first college football playoff rankings came out. Now is the time that everyone gets to argue about who's in, who's out, yada, yada. No, put a pin in that, because I'm actually going to side on the side of the old white men that left their hats at the door, which is one of the funniest things. If you haven't seen that clip, it's amazing. They all wear hats and they leave them on a little hat rack outside the door to have a nice little symbolism there. But I think they did a pretty good job with this. I will quickly just run off what would be the current projected 12-team playoff, starting at number 1, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, and we have Georgia, we have Ole Miss, BYU, Texas Tech, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, and Oklahoma in the top 12. Now, obviously, all those teams can't make it because we'll have different college championships or conference championships, I should say. So that will definitely shake out. I mean, if you want to look at what these first round matchups would be, you would have Georgia hosting Memphis, which would be the winner of the group of 5. You would have Texas Tech hosting Oregon, which I think would be a fantastic game if that came to fruition. Ole Miss hosting Virginia, the winner of the ACC, projected again. We'll talk about Virginia later on in the show here. And then BYU hosting Notre Dame. So could be a very intriguing first round. But right now, I think we have to put a pin in a little bit of the arguments because I think they did a pretty good job. One thing to note, which I do think is very funny, Miami sitting at 18. Shout out Charlie Mock. They are behind number 10 Notre Dame, and if you do remember, Miami beat Notre Dame in the first week of the season. Interesting tidbit there. And Iowa finally made it into the top 25. They ranked number 20. We'll touch on their game with Oregon here in a second. But Mac, anything jumping out at you with the first college football playoff rankings? And we can thank the Holy Ghost that we do not have to worry about the AP poll anymore because it is garbage.
Yeah, no, it's exciting that we're actually now going to be focused on the playoff rankings. So, this is when college football just becomes at its peak for the rest of the year. So, yeah, I mean, looking at some of these upcoming games, man, we got some pretty decent matchups that are going to be already affecting this playoff in itself. I mean,
Big time.
first right off the bat, I mean, we're looking at what, number 7 BYU at Texas Tech. And I think Tech's favored, what, -10, if I'm not mistaken?
You are correct. Yeah. It's going to be college game day down in Lubbock. You're right. Line right now is sitting at -10 in favor of number 8 Texas Tech, over under at 52.5. But yeah, this is a big one. And it's actually very funny because we could see this matchup again in like 3 weeks. When's the conference championship game? Because right now BYU is sitting in the driver's seat in the Big 10, Big 12. But Texas Tech could win this game. If you then have BYU go and beat them again in the Big 12 championship game, that would be very interesting to see how the committee wants to go about that. But I think Texas Tech is going to be too much in this game. We've talked about how they've reloaded the roster through the NIL. I think really what's going to come down to it is BYU is not going to survive a slow start again. It's something that they have done all year long. They were 10 points down to Arizona in the fourth quarter. They were down 24-10 to Iowa State at one point in that game. They trailed Colorado 14-3. And that game, we know how Colorado is. They're kind of all over the place. Shout out Coach Prime and the Buffs. But they scored 10 first half points against Utah in the Holy War. Obviously, they ended up winning that game, but Devin Dampier got banged up, so he wasn't running as much. I said to highlight the dual threat ability of Dampier. That didn't come to fruition. So I think if they get off to a slow start against a very stout Texas Tech defense, I think it's going to be hard for them to overcome that because they just have not been able to have a lot of big plays. Bear Bachmeier, quarterback of BYU, it's just he hasn't been able to get the ball downfield. Obviously, not a lot of big plays in the running game either. So I think Baron Morton, he's got a week back from the injury, coming off another win. So I think it's going to be Texas Tech, and I do like the 10 points, to be honest. I think they can cover that 10-point spread.
Nice. Yeah, I think you brought some valid points too, right? Seeing BYU struggle early on in some of these games. Games that they should never have been struggling in the first place to then have to come back. I see Tech getting up early and BYU just not being able to hang. So I'll be riding on that with you. I'd be curious what the line is. 10 is just such a tough number to follow, but
it's a rat number, but yeah,
yeah,
I like it. I mean, look, BYU is a great team. I'm not trying to disparage BYU in any way. They've obviously been resilient to come back from all those deficits. I just think this is when the kind of chickens come to roost. That's a saying, right?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, nice. All right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see it happening, right? They've been down 10 so many times and have come back, but I think in this particular game, if they go down by 10 plus, I don't see them coming back. So I think that train ends there. But that's a good, I think, segue to kind of keep it into Texas a little bit, because we're seeing number 3 A&M over at your alma mater, who you just were able to root for somewhat recently live. And that is 19 Mizzou. Now, I'm going to just preface this is, depending on which direction you go here, will this be a biased pick or will this be a sound and logical pick?
Well, I would love to kind of put on my Kirk Herbstreit hat, if you will, and just sustain from making a pick on this game, but that's not what we do here. We like to make picks. We like to show some love here to our schools. Yeah, I mean, dude, this game is it's unfortunately a make or break game for Mizzou. I mean, middle of the afternoon, Como should be rocking. So I hope everyone gets up early, gets tailgates going. Let's get rowdy before we get into this game. Let's make sure we're feeling pretty good on a Saturday in Columbia. But I mean, Texas A&M is just so good, dude. They're so good. Mizzou starting true freshman quarterback Matt Zollers. I mean, he's a 5-star out of Pennsylvania. He's slinging it. I think
he's looked pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, one quarter in Vandy, and then he kind of got sprinkled into some other games when we were winning big.
Yeah.
The line's at -7 right now for A&M. I would love to say that we can cover that. I think it's going to be way too much. I mean,
Yeah.
A&M's, hopefully not going to move the ball at will, but our secondary has been a problem all year long. So if we're not getting to the pass rush, or we're not getting a good pass rush early, I think that game could spiral. So I think A&M's going to take this game. I would love to say that we cover. I can't see it. So this one, I will not be biased, and I say A&M with the touchdown. But I will say, be on the lookout. Now, we can't bet player props in Massachusetts for college football, but for those of you out and around the U.S., keep an eye on Jude James. Now, he is, I think, our 3rd to 4th string tight end, but he was a number 1 option for Zollers in the spring camp, and he is coming off a touchdown performance in the Vanderbilt game, targeted him, I think, 4 times, had 3 catches. So I think that might be his go-to guy coming up on Saturday. And I met his mom, lovely lady in Nashville after the game. We were at a barbecue joint, and we had a good chat. She seemed like a very nice lady. So shout out Jude James. Shout out Jude James' mother, respectfully. And be on the lookout for some Jude James overs and maybe an anytime touchdown.
Well, I was a little questioning that initial pick, but the fact that you got to hang out with his mom, that's the emotional information I need to know. If I had the ability to, if I was not in Massachusetts, I would be hammering Jude James touchdown just for that and that reason alone. So love that little small connection and experience you got to have there, which I think, leads us to, if we're going to talk family, my cousin went to Oregon, just graduated. And so we're going to go to number 9, Oregon, playing at number 20, Iowa. Now, Oregon is favored here, -6.5, with the over-under being only 40.5, which seems very interesting, especially for an Oregon game.
There you go. Wow,
there you go. See, all right. So, I mean, Jack, what are your thoughts on this? Because, I mean, granted, I understand it is Iowa. That's what's making that line so low, but it is Oregon. So what are we thinking here?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a 3 yards in a cloud of dust game. I think Dan Lanning's going to play some big boy football, which Oregon in the past has not really been known for. But since Lanning has come and taken over the program, I think it's going to be a really heavy ground and pound game for Oregon. Iowa, they've had flashes of some offense. I think it's just going to be a matter of who's got the dudes, and I think Oregon has too many dudes on both sides of the ball. So I will actually take the 6.5 again. So I'm taking touchdowns and points all over the place this weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was not a ranked matchup until Tuesday night when the college football playoff rankings came out. So I will take the Ducks, and the over under. Yeah, it's gross at 40.5, but let's take some points. Let's see it. I think we can get 7 touchdowns in here. Six touchdowns. 6.
Yeah, covering 40.5 seems very doable in this game. So let's hope it's an exciting, and it starts off with a lot of fire early on. Just get the blood pumping. But no, I think that's a great recap, of course, of games we're looking forward to. But there's a lot of games coming up too that if you were to tell us going into the year that these games are essentially not going to be as big of a game as you might think, right? I think we're looking at 4 games here where going into the season, these were marked on our calendars. These were games where we were excited about. And starting off, we're looking at Indiana at Penn State. This one now seems like should be a pretty easy cakewalk for the Hoosiers. But I'd love to get your thoughts, because we got some options here that at this point it's like not a lot of weight on these matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough. when you looked at this weekend of college football, when the schedules came out, I circled, wow, this would be a great weekend to park myself in front of a TV. Little did I know, my good pal Jacob Muff was going to get married this weekend, hence my trip to Fort Worth. So I was a little bummed I'd be missing out some of these games, but turns out, as you said, not exactly a whole lot to watch. Yeah, Indiana at Penn State. Obviously, James Franklin fired. I think Indiana can take that one. Iowa State at TCU. Everyone thought, ooh, some Big 12 matchups that could be pretty prominent here. Both high-powered offenses. Nope, they're both unranked and their seasons are over. FSU at Clemson, boy, talk about an absolute nightmare. Both of these coaches probably should be fired. Maybe Dabo just leaves on his own. But everyone knows about the abysmal seasons these two have had in the ACC. And then one that could be a little frisky, though, so we can touch on this one a little deeper. LSU at number 4 Alabama. I mean, Brian Kelly obviously out. First game without Kelly at the helm for LSU this season. Do we think they can give Alabama any fits down in Tuscaloosa?
So it's funny you say that. Now, I don't know if this translates in college football, but in world football, there is a trend. Team that struggles, they fire their manager. The first game they have after they fire said manager, they come correct and have a game. We see it almost 90% of the time when a club fires their managers. It really is one of the most predictable outcomes you see in world footy. So I'd be curious, can that translate to college football? Because we're seeing all these reports that the players hated Kelly, right?
Everyone hated Kelly.
I mean, the guy is just not beloved. So does this mean the players are going to show and just to prove like he was the problem the whole time? I mean, that in itself for me as a world footy fan kind of excites me because I love the notion where if this translates, I may be looking at hammering LSU. I mean, granted, it's Bama. But just on the storyline in itself, that is just I might just want to bet headline for that.
Yeah. I mean, the interim head coach logic is there. It's sound. Trust me. I think LSU is going to be lively in this game. Garrett Nussmeier was supposed to be the Heisman Trophy winner when this season started. So, I mean, the offense has not been great for LSU, but they've kind of started to get it together the last couple weeks. I mean, the defense has been okay. So I think this could be hey, we're not dead yet. Who wants to come be the belle of the ball and take over this program game? Yeah, I think LSU is going to be lively in this one. And speaking of upset watch, I will take you to the ACC. We talked about Virginia off the rip. Wake Forest at number 12, Virginia. 6.5 points is the line favoring Virginia, over under 48.5. They control their own destiny to the ACC title game. If they win out, they're in. The Georgia Tech loss really helped them, but they've played with their food in almost every game this year. They have 5 wins of 10 points or less, 3 wins by 3 points or less. And Wake Forest had ripped off 3 wins in a row, including one over SMU before they got pounded by Florida State last weekend. But they also only lost to Georgia Tech by 1. So I think they could be frisky. That's a live dog to target, plus 205 on the money line. So that one's a big game for the ACC. Be on the lookout for the Deacons in that one.
We love a good underdog line there. Well, I think that's a good, solid wrap-up of college football weekend. Excited about Saturday. It's going to be a fun day, regardless of the what could have beens. But, overall, we got some good line and some good juice. So I think it's a good segue to go to the big boys. Time to touch on our NFL plays for the upcoming weekend. So as always, we'll be starting off with primetime games, and that leads us to go over to the Mile High Stadium where the Raiders are visiting the Denver Broncos, who barely scratched off and come out unscathed, or I should say came out scathed this last weekend. But that line at -9.5 with an over-under of 42.5. Curious on your thoughts here, because the Broncos were a bit sketchy this last weekend.
Yeah, I think that game goes into the fact that Houston's defense is very good. I'm going to put a lot more stock into the Texans' defense causing Bo Nix fits. Say that 5 times fast. Bo Nix fist. Can't even do it. But I have another stat for you, and it is the Raiders are just really bad. And
Yeah.
it comes down to
Solid
Jacoby
stat.
Myers gone. Brock Bowers is literally the only one that can catch the ball for them anymore. And a team that went to overtime and lost and is then an underdog the following week has failed to cover the spread like 26 out of 28 times I saw. So, yeah, you like a good trend. Take the Broncos. I will be taking the Broncos.
That kicks us off. We are back to the NFL heading over abroad to Europe. So we have another Sunday morning game. Not going to lie, it was kind of nice not having to sweat out my A fantasy lineup, but B picks and bets early Sunday morning. So we're going to be doing that again this Sunday because we have in Berlin the Falcons versus the Colts. So no home team obviously here. After what we saw last week with the Colts and how dicey the Falcons are, this actually, in my opinion, is kind of a tough one to call. Right. I think when we're looking at the Colts on paper before this last week, we would have said 6.5. See you later. Lock it in. Good to go. Danny Dimes showed his true self, I think. I think we've been kind of looking at this guy as comeback player of the year. I know we talked about it on the pod a couple weeks ago, but that was the Danny Dimes that we've known over in the Giants and his entire career came back to fruition. So it's going to be interesting on this one, but I'm personally still feel like the Colts are gonna turn it around. I think they're gonna be embarrassed after that last play. They're gonna stick to what they know. They're gonna run and gun. Jonathan Taylor should have a great game. So personally, I probably would be looking at the hitting 6.5 in itself, winning by a touchdown seems reasonable. But Jack, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on the turnover issue with the Colts early on when we were doing the recap. I mean, they had 6 turnovers and they still only lost by 1 score. So, and they're adding Sauce Gardner to the mix. That was a big trade.
Yeah.
Sending 2 first rounders and A.D. Mitchell to the Jets. I mean, you know how I feel about the Falcons. This team is a complete disaster. I don't know how to cap them. When I think they're going to win, they lose by 30. When I think they're going to lose, they end up winning. So take this with a grain of salt because I am backing the Colts with you. I do like the 6.5 as well. But I will go a little sleepy time Berlin under 48.5. I think, the under for these European games typically hits. So I'll take the under, but I'll take the Colts to cover as well.
Yeah, I like that. I like that call as well. I'm a fan of the under for that one, which then leads us to, of course, for Sunday night primetime action, Steelers at Chargers. This is actually a solid game. I mean, both of these teams only with 3 losses, right? I believe the Chargers are 6-3, Steelers are 5-3. They haven't had a bye yet, if I'm not mistaken. But with only 2.5 as the spread in favor of the Chargers, I don't know what to call this one. I think if I had to pick an outright winner, I would just lean Chargers, right? I mean, everything on paper seems like that's the right call, but sometimes Aaron Rodgers just shows up this year, and so it's kind of a tough one. Their defense finally woke up this last week, so we could potentially see them starting to roll here, but I don't know. It's a tough one to call. I mean, I know you have some opinions on this, so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, this one is tough because, it's in LA. Well, it's not like that has any home field advantage. Sorry, Chargers fans. So I think there's going to be a lot of terrible towels in the stadium on Sunday night. But I will say I don't love the travel coming all the way over. They had to play, play a tough one against Indy. Like I said, 6 turnovers. You only win by 7 points. I do think that pass rush scares me against that banged up Chargers O-line. I mean, I don't think there's a more banged up O-line in football. They did acquire, I think, another tackle at the deadline here. So, we'll see continuity wise if he's going to be able to mesh in well with the boys up there in LA. But, I think I like Justin Herbert and the weapons a little too much. I think Harbaugh is really going to hammer the run game, get the play action, get Herbert out in motion, run a couple boots, try to slow down the pass rush of Watt and the Steelers. So, yeah, I will take the Chargers. I think you'll get a theme here later on. We have a nice little specialty play for you, but I'm going to take the Chargers in this one.
Yeah. And you know what that means is we have essentially 4 different time slots on Sunday, something we haven't done
Literally
before.
have 4 different time slots. Yeah.
So I think and we were talking about this. It could be fun to do a little full day parlay here. So essentially, we could have some action at every time. Well, we're going to have action on every time slot, regardless. But could be fun to pick a winner for each time slot. And I think we kind of alluded to, if you haven't guessed already, the teams we're going with here. But if you go, let's say for Berlin kick, start with the Colts, right? Colts get an early win, and then if we look at the 1 o'clock slate, we look at the 4 o'clock slate. If we want to go safe here, go conservative, because we're going to get a plus money line for a 4 parlay regardless. So you could take Bills, add that to that against the Dolphins. I think that should be an easy win. And then go over and go with the Lions for the 4:25 or 4 o'clock slate. And then if we were then to pick for Sunday night, sounds like we're going to be leaning towards the Chargers on that one. I mean, those four alone together, we're looking at plus 206 for a 4-team outright winner.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, you said play it a little safe. We'll play it safe in the afternoon slate. Obviously, Lions taking on the Commanders. No Jaden Daniels. Back to Marcus Mariota. But Bills and Lions should be the safer plays. Now I say should because it is gambling. It's the NFL any given Sunday. But I think the Colts and the Chargers, I think that both those games are going to be relatively tight. So I think it's obviously hard to take a team traveling all the way to Berlin. So are the Falcons, but who knows what that's like. And then, I think the Steelers-Chargers game should be a great Sunday night matchup. So, playing it a little safe with two of the picks, but I think the other two are kind of risky. So, Colts money line, Bills money line, Lions money line, and Chargers money line plus 206 for a little all-day affair. I like it.
Absolutely. Now, of course, we're not going to just leave you hanging there. We do have some fun matchups throughout the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock slate as well. Not to mention, we have a live train going that we are 1 for 1 now. So looking at just the earlier slate here, game that I know you're going to be glued to the television for. It's your Patriots playing the Bucks in Tampa Bay. Bucks favored minus 2.5. I am probably going to be aligned with you on this, and I'll actually have you, of course, lead off here because it's your team. But I'm very excited about this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could argue this is the game of the weekend, which probably a lot of people wouldn't have thought coming into the year. Bucks coming off a bye. They might have Bucky Irving back. We'll see if he's going to be able to go. He's been questionable throughout the early parts of the week. Again, we record this on Wednesday, so pay attention to the injury report heading into Sunday. But it's minus 2.5 in favor of the Bucks. You got to think they factor in the 3 points for the home side. Over under sitting at 48.5. But look, the Pats are they have something right now. You call it lightning in a bottle, whatever. They look like a team that loves playing together, and it starts with Vrabel. The whole culture's changed. Drake May has had an MVP performance so far this season. He had a down game last weekend, but they still gutted out a win. They beat teams that they usually should beat up on. They've done that this year. They've won now 6 in a row. They're tied for first in the conference. So just based on conference record, they're sitting at second, but whatever, same record. I think they are a very lively dog down in Tampa. We talked about teams that have had some banged up offensive lines. That would be the Bucks. And this Patriots defense has looked pretty good. So I'm going to take the Pats on the money line. I think they can get it done this weekend.
Yeah, and as of now, that money line, if I'm not mistaken, is plus 114. So that in itself might be just a fun one to go straight up on, bet the house, and let it ride there. So I'm excited. I'm with you, man. I think the Pats are going to come correct. They've looked strong all year long. Bucks are still a little banged up. Even if Bucky comes back, I think the Pats got it, man. They're bringing a lot of excitement back here in Boston. So as a non-Patriots fan, you hate to see it because we had enough of you guys with Brady, but May's a real deal, and Vrabel seems like he's really turned just on a culture standpoint with this team. So I'm with you there. I'm going to be hammering Patriots money line. I love that. Don't need to touch the over under. Don't care. Just want to win for the Patriots, in my opinion. That's going to be my pick there.
Yeah, love it. And then 2 more games on the slate here. Ravens -4.5 at Vikings, over under 48.5. Vikings, huge win over the Lions. JJ McCarthy's return. Now, we were questioning whether this game would be dicey. I think it could be close, but we're going to ride the Ravens once again. Stay tuned to the socials where we take that game. Could be a money line. I know that's hovering around -200 or so. So maybe we try and buy a point or two, but pay attention to the socials for that. And then that brings us to our final game, Monday Night Football, Eagles at Packers. Packers -2.5, over under 45.5. Mac, what are your thoughts on this NFC matchup Monday night?
Yeah, oh God, talk about two teams that I just hate.
That's why I
And
gave it to you first.
I know, and it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be an exciting game. I'm just trying to understand the Packers. I don't know. I just the defense still, they should be one of the top defenses in the league, in my opinion, and it just feels like they're not, right? I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong. Like you got the data to back this up, but both these teams are underperforming, in my opinion, right? Going into the season of what we expected. So I emotionally would love to see the Packers win, just because Eagles are by far my least favorite team in this league. But at the same time, a draw would be just as fun. Yeah. So if I had to pick one, I think I'd go. I don't know. Do we know? I mean, if I look at the Eagles money line right now, and just from a quick glance, as of now, it's +110. I don't know.
Basically a pick
Yeah,
'em almost at that point.
it's basically a pick 'em. I mean, it's -2.5. I would have to see what the roster is. You tell me. Is there any no like big names that are going to be missing on Monday night? Or
I don't believe so. I think both these teams should be coming correct with their rosters. I am curious to see if Jalen Phillips is going to be out there. He was a defensive end for the Dolphins. He was acquired by the Eagles earlier in the week, ahead of the trade deadline. He should be ready to go. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to play. I mean, as an edge rusher, what's the scheme? Get to the quarterback. So I think he'll be out there, which makes that defensive front for the Eagles much improved. I'm going to take the Eagles in this game. I like them on the road just a little bit more than I like the Packers. The Packers offense has looked really bad. Only, I think they scored 13 points against the Panthers last weekend.
And Kraft now being gone. I mean, that's arguably Love's best and most elite weapon on the field. So
yeah. So who knows? Maybe the offense was a bit of a wake-up call for them, but I think the Eagles have started to play a lot more consistent football as of late. The line looks like it's getting a little bit healthier. Saquon's starting to push the ball downfield via the run game, which then always opens up the A.J. Browns and the Devontae Smiths of the world. And Eagles are coming off a bye. So that's my logic. I'll take a fresher Eagles team to go into Lambeau and win.
And we love a plus money line for outright winner there. So I'm a fan of that. I will probably be tailing you then as well. And that'll be an exciting night to wrap up the NFL weekend.
Yes, indeed. So, like we said, as always, go follow our socials on Instagram, X, TikTok. You can look us up at the Cover Story Pod. As always, subscribe to Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Drop us a comment. Give us your feedback. What do you want to hear more of? What do you want to hear less of? Probably both of us. But hey, you're here, so we appreciate that. Thank you as always. Let's have a great weekend. Mac, any final words for the listeners and viewers out there?
Yeah, no, more so just thank you for all the support. We're starting to gain some traction here, and we want to continue that momentum. And our number one goal, as we say in the beginning of the pod, is to make you some racks. So we are on our quest to do that for you starting tomorrow, or tonight, I should say, with Thursday Night Football. And we hope to have a profitable weekend with you.
Yes, indeed. The next chapter of the Cover Story continues. Okay, everyone, tail responsibly, fade if you dare.